Donc alors nous allons commencer avec une conférence assez originale avec des experts anglo-saxons. Donc ça va permettre de se refaire avec la langue de Shakespeare. Et en même temps, nous avons un atelier avec Scaleflex, avec le cas client qui est Costa Coffee. Donc toujours même direction, au fond à droite. Donc je vous laisse quelques minutes là pour reprendre la scène. And during your time, so I'm super happy and delighted to welcome Kristina, Clemency, Céline, and Timo on the stage. So you see, Peter, that we have a stunning panel. Donc on reprend tout doucement. Conférence d'ici quelques instants et atelier Scaleflex au fond à droite. Avec notre ami Émile. Comment vas-tu, Émile?
Très très bien. Oui.
Qu'est-ce que tu nous proposes pour nous faire rêver?
Du café.
Du café? Oui. Tu l'as pas trouvé assez bon là?
Non, c'est un cas d'usage avec du café.
Ah ok, donc super. Viens avec moi. Donc je vous présente Émile, CEO de Scaleflex. Et donc on a eu une super conférence hier avec le collectionniste et notre ami Camille. Et puis on a discuté ce matin avec Jean-François. Un beau cas d'usage avec Costa Coffee, avec présentation des dernières nouveautés entre l'expérience de Portail, le Scaleflex DAM, Cloud Image, et ça depuis 4 ans. Maintenant couronné de gloire en étant un vrai dame du marché, mais ça on le savait aussi. Donc l'atelier Scaleflex avec Jonathan et Émile, c'est donc au fond à droite. Merci. Okay, so I try to. J'appelle plutôt en français. Allez, on va commencer, ça va faire venir tout le monde. So I'm super delighted. So something like weeks ago, because we have. I think at the end of the day, we are sometimes a visual suspect of this damn world, and so. I think, Timo, we know each other since Xinet, which was a fantastic dam. We had the honor with Kristina to get a fantastic conference, and especially at Bino Connect in Amsterdam, something like 2 months ago. And so more or less in the time spent, I don't know how much years, but you are so young, so 11, oh my goodness.
Take that.
Yeah. And Clemency also, we have some nice exchanges since so many times. Nice time in London in June. And Céline is the necessary milestone to be at the point of capture to start everything. So, of course, I will let Timo to manage the panel. I tried sometime to stump you if I got some great ideas, but maybe you can start presenting yourself, okay? So I've got 2 mics.
Well, first of all, thanks a lot, Fred, and the whole team of Activo for inviting us and giving us the opportunity to be here today and give me the opportunity to moderate this panel. I'm really grateful for that, and I'm also really happy to be on the stage with this wonderful panel and experienced and fantastic experts in their field. And you know, here to present the session of challenges and opportunities of AI in the context of DAM. And in favor of time, we only have half an hour, I think, to do this.
You know, we are French, so we are very creative sometimes. Sometimes it's half an hour, sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. I know that you are super professional, so just stump the audience and take the time you need. But more or less, it has to be half an hour. You got a remote control, but maybe just start presenting yourself very quickly, and then we can start with a slide.
All right, so my name is Timo Faber. I'm a DAM consultant. I've been in the DAM industry for 20 years. It's pretty much everything I've done in my entire professional life. I was with a DAM vendor for almost 17 years, and I started my own DAM consulting business 4 years ago. And what I do is I help selecting and implementing DAMs for big organizations and help them find the DAM that they need.
Could you put the slide up? Hi, everyone. I'm Kristina Huddart. I am also an independent DAM consultant. I've been working in DAM for 11 years now. I'm based in the UK, but I work with companies all over the world. And AI and DAM is a very, very hot topic right now. So I help companies with their whole end-to-end DAM journey. So whether they're looking to select a new platform, implementing a platform, change management, as well as optimizing their DAM practice. I help them with all sorts of different things. If you go to the next slide. So, like I said, I work with a lot of different clients who are all thinking about AI in DAM at the moment. And I decided this year that I wanted to start some research to really understand how are people wanting to use AI in DAM, what are they doing now, and what would they like to do in the future, right? Because all we know right now is that some DAM vendors are offering AI capabilities, but we don't really know how people are using it or how they want to use it. So I started a bit of research called the State of AI in DAM, and based off of 200 contributions from across the community, including some of you in this room, so thank you very much for contributing. This is the report, so please do download the report if you would like to see the report for 2024. And the 2025 research is about to be launched in January. So if you download this report, then I will ask you to contribute to next year's report as well. But if you go to the next slide, the findings are quite interesting. And I just wanted to share just this one little snippet from the research with you today. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about this. So these are the 5 top AI capabilities that organizations are looking for their DAM systems, or sometimes anything to do with their content and digital assets. So as we can see here, I'm going to have to turn around to read it. The number 1 top thing is improved search and discovery, and similarly, number 3 is automated metadata tagging. So we want to be able to find our assets easily, and we want AI to help us with this. We also want to use AI for content management and moderation, and the idea there is a little bit about, duplicate detection, helping us to find similar assets, and be able to select from a photo shoot. And then we've got DAM analytics and insights, and then automatic cropping, editing, and format optimization. So there's a lot we expect from our DAM systems, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I want to hand over to you.
Working okay? Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I'm Clemency Wright. I'm also based in the UK. I'm an independent consultant. I work mainly with metadata, especially keywords, especially descriptive keywords. So I'm very deep in the part of the brand or the client who is describing visual assets. My background is with commercial photographers. I started out as a keyworder at Getty Images over 20 years ago. My company name is Clemency Wright Consulting. Yes, so I offer training, services, workshops, and strategies in keywording methodology to help my clients understand the best process to approach their collections with the user's needs at the forefront. I also recently created an online platform which is mainly educational, and that's called Make Search Better. And you can visit the site and you can download resources for free. You can learn about keywording methodologies and the ways that I help my clients. There are some videos, and there's also some options for you to kind of create your own keywording template which you can use in your organization. So as I mentioned, my particular interest is keywording descriptive elements of an image. This is particularly important for the creative image collections where we have conceptual imagery or imagery that is quite difficult to categorize, especially for AI, I find. So I was very pleased to have the opportunity to talk to you about some case studies. This one we may come back to later on when we talk about auto-tagging. But just to mention, these two images were from a creative photo shoot for a client of mine who contributes to Getty Images. So his business is all around the commercial value of creative imagery. And the main thing that he wants to do with his images is create the storytelling aspect and the narrative behind an image. So what I thought was interesting about the shoot was to make these assets discoverable and searchable, I need to carefully choose keywords and curate keywords for individual specific assets. So it would not be beneficial, in my experience at the moment, to auto-tag this particular model, who you may be able to see is an amputee. So the context and the story behind this shoot was very, very important to me as a metadata consultant. I had to identify the model, yes, but I had to say that the story being told in the first image was of him not showing the amputee side of the story, whereas this story here was a completely different market. And this gave my client more commercial value with his assets. Being able to curate your keywords for specific images allows you to enter different markets and attract different types of customers. So to go back to what I was saying, I'm talking about the stories that images tell, how to make those more discoverable as keywords for users who are looking to identify the nuance and the subtle differences between one big shoot. So I'm interested to find out a bit more about how AI could or may not be able to tackle that aspect of metadata. And that's me done.
Next slide, please. So hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here again. It's always lovely to be here and connect with you all, and really great to be part of this conversation around this very timely topic. So my name is Celine, and I am the Global Dam Manager at Save the Children. For those of you who are not familiar with the organization, we are a non-profit organization. We work to ensure that every child survives, learns, and is protected. We have dedicated staff across 110, I mean, this always varies, so we've got 110 countries in which we deliver programs, and we have about 29 members. We respond to major emergencies, we deliver innovative programming, and we also raise children's voices through campaigning. And my role really is to try and find a coherent voice across this diverse and very complex organization. And I think the DAM plays an essential role in this. Next slide, please. And what I really want to emphasize in this conversation is that our DAM is a source of trust. You know, when people go and fetch assets, or source assets, shall I say, they know those assets have gone through a lot, like a huge level of safeguarding, which is critical to us. As you can understand, we work with children and often in vulnerable situations. And they know that this content is authentic. So this is content that is related to people that we actually work with, whether it's children, communities, and also the staff that we need to protect. And then the quality control. So we have very high standards, whether it's not just our brand guidelines, it's the ethics that underline the way that we gather our content, we manage it, we archive it, and then we share it or use it. So for us, when I think about AI, I think, wow, this tool is you know, there's such potential, we can't ignore it. It's got amazing capabilities, but for us is how can AI protect the children and communities we work with? That is essentially what we need AI to do for us. If it does not meet any one of these, then it is not a tool we can harness. So I think it's really keeping in mind that right now I'm talking as an NGO, but you may be dealing with brands. Everyone has their different compliance issues. You need to have very clearly marked what is not a compromise, it's non-negotiable. These are your, you know, yeah. And I think that, I think is really, if you can take anything away from this talk, that would be what I would say, is really, as we're learning and developing frameworks, we really need to be sure about what we're trying to do with this tool and what is a priority to us, to our products, to our customers, and so on, because it comes with great responsibility.
Thank you. This is super interesting to have all those different perspectives, I think, from a consultant or a keyword consultant and from a client as well, from a global DAM product owner. As you explained all your touch points or you know, your standpoints, where you're coming from in AI, I also had this. So this is what I came up with at some point, is the DAM AI quadrant, and trying to unravel a little bit all the aspects of DAM, all the DAM features, let's say, and what level of AI they're actually using, and also on the vertical axis, what business value it gives, right? Because that's the main thing. We all want to use tools, and the main reason why we have tools is we want to make someone's lives easier. We want to, you know, create a value. If you don't get a value out of it, you know, you might as well just not do it or not implement it. So for example, on this, just quickly, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this, but at the very top, we'll see, you know, AI-enhanced media transformation or dynamic media delivery, where I think this is already, it's an area that's working, it's implemented, it's part of products. You know, if you think of smart cropping or smart compressions or things like that, that gives value, uses AI, so it's kind of the best ranked in this diagram. Whereas, you know, if you look at brand portals, there's definitely a business value in this, but it's probably not using AI and doesn't need to even. AI is just a tool, really. It's not, you know, the purpose for itself. So, which actually leads me to the first question. So we have all these features DAM vendors are talking about. There's a lot of noise about AI. You know, I feel like DAM vendors have kind of raised expectations really, really high of what AI can do. And I just want to ask you or hear your opinion about what you think are those expectations reality? Have they been accomplished, you think?
I would say we're only skimming the surface, really. We're only starting out, right? We're in the industry, again, from the research that I did, we can see that a lot of companies are thinking about using AI and maybe they're experimenting a little bit, but they haven't actually dug into it very deeply. And I think it's the same with the vendors, right? They're starting to roll out some functionality and capabilities that we can play with and test. But there's a lot of space to grow there still. I think it's also quite interesting, I think, as you know, the AI word, it makes us feel like it's magic, and you know, we all would like to believe that it can magically solve a lot of our problems and do things for us. But we're not there yet, and I'm not sure we ever will be there where it is magic. I think humans will always have to be involved. But I also think it's important to recognize that AI is not one thing, right? AI, there are thousands of different AI solutions, and they all solve something different. So just saying that we're using AI doesn't really mean much. What are you using it for? What problems does it solve?
Yeah, I think, you know, as we've discussed multiple times in our preparing for this panel. I think for me, there is a huge misconception around AI. So I have a lot of users saying, well, we need AI auto tagging, and we need to implement it now. And and I think there's a big gap between what they think it can do. I mean, one of our pain points, which I think most can relate to, is adding metadata to our assets, right? But AI without the metadata is of no use. So it's explaining that to the users and saying, yes, it's really easy to activate the AI tool, but is it really serving our purpose? Is it really solving our problems? We've got search, which can be highly improved using AI, but again, how you use it and how you harness it is really integral to what you'll get out of the AI tool. And I think also from a perspective of generative AI, again, discussing with a lot of you as well at this conference, we've got a lot of agencies pushing for the use of AI. People going like, yeah, we need to use generative AI. Look, I've got this asset. How about I've generated this asset. Can we use it for our, training material? And what I found, which was actually quite frightening, is that there is this lack of understanding of the underlying biases and misrepresentations, misinformation in those assets. They're absolutely inappropriate to use. And then there's the underlying question of copyright. And when we talk about copyright, we were talking about this with Paul, we talk about the copyright owners, but we're not talking about the people in those photographs that didn't give consent for their images to be used. I mean, the layers of ethics and moral responsibility are huge, and I don't think we're really addressing those properly in this sphere. But I definitely think, with the workflow tools, it's about managing expectations and showing that you're testing, that you're trialing these tools, that you are engaging with their ask, but doing it in the right way.
Yeah. Clemency, do you want to, especially in your field of expertise, I think in metadata, we'll talk about this in more depth later, but
yeah, I was going to say I probably have the least to say in this particular question, but I was really picking up on our conversations before the session today around, being visible around what the vendors are offering or say they're offering versus the reality, which in my personal experience helping clients is, we have this AI tagging tool, for example, as one of our set of features. We've switched it off. We've never used it. We looked at it and it was terrible. So obviously I'm intrigued to know why that's terrible, how we can improve it, why should we improve it? And I think for me the motivating question is always, what is the purpose of your metadata? Why are you actually adding metadata? Because you have to do that for a reason, and it's usually, in my experience, a user, a person, a human being who will think differently to you or I, the next person, the language that each of us uses, and even just the language that the vendors are using themselves to talk about and describe their technical features. It's so varied that we need almost like a common vocabulary that we can share, that's transparent, that everybody's willing to continually iterate and adapt. So for me, it's just an overarching thing about everybody being open and honest and sharing that information and working together as a community in DAM to create a language that is accessible, that we all understand and nobody feels foolish or, that they're in the dark. Yeah.
No, I agree. It definitely feels like we're not there yet, right? At the same time, I think it's, if we look at the AI-powered features of DAMs now, I think they're all I'm not sure if I should say this, but on an experimental level, most of them are, I think. And I think it's not a secret, right? DAM vendors say it as well. It's we need to test out and see what's being adopted by users. And it's fine, but I think we need to be careful to not generate wrong expectations on from the users, because the organizations also feel like they're left behind if they're not using AI, whatever that means. But that's really what I hear. Roadmap 25, 26, use more AI. What I mean, what does it mean? It's just a tool, really. But so how can we go back? Yeah, we can. Okay, right. If we look at Kristina's slide here on the already ranked top 5 AI capabilities brands are seeking in them. Which area do you think benefits most from AI? Like if we look at search, for example, search without AI and search with AI, is there, what's the benefit? And if you look at all the other areas as well.
This is an interesting one, right? Because like we said, we're starting out with AI and it's growing. And the area that I actually see as the easiest, I guess, quick win of AI is probably the second one. Content management and moderation, right? Being able to pick out duplicates, for example. If you have a data set of 1 million assets, you don't have a person that has time to go and pick out those duplicates, but AI can do that very, very quickly. And that's fantastic, right? It's saving us additional versions. You can also manage version control and similar type assets. You could also do things like tell AI to go and find all of the assets where we've used our old logo, right? We've just rebranded. We've been using this old logo. We know we still have, 25% of the assets in our system are still using that old logo. Go find that and tell us which ones those are. That's a great use of AI, and it's a much better use than somebody's time to go and do that stuff, right? Because you want your content managers, your DAM managers, you want them focusing on the curation and the real problems that are out there. And then there are harder things. I mean, the automatic tagging, I think we're going to talk a little bit about it, but I really see that the generic automatic tagging that we're seeing from models like Google and Amazon, those are okay. And you can, easily be able to tag things like, this is what's in the image, this is the location it was taken at, those sort of things. But if you really want to get brand value out of that, you've got to train your AI models. And that is going to take a lot more time, effort, investment, and that's where the real value lies. But again, this is where companies need to make that decision. Do we jump into it? Do we invest in it? Or do we just use the generic model, which is not necessarily going to give you that much value? What do you think?
To that in particular, yeah, I feel even talking to some vendors over the last couple of days, I'm feeling quite hopeful, to be honest, as someone who does not use auto-tagging for my clients at their request at the moment. I do believe that we can start to layer up, like you say, moving with purpose, with an understanding of why we're doing this tagging. And if we can work with the machine, so the human in the loop kind of approach to this work, we can have a lot of power at our fingertips with AI, with auto-tagging. And I'm seeing like the emergence of a kind of a situation where we create some foundational framework as, say, a DAM manager, creating a controlled vocabulary and using that as your blueprint to help train your DAM. My personal preference would be to train the domain-specific DAM so that we can work with vendors to help make that happen. I don't know if we've got in the room the answers to this question, but whose responsibility would that be? That's something that keeps me up at night.
Just quickly to answer what you both said about domain-specific models. We talked about this while we were preparing the panel. And I always thought, yes, of course, this is like the answer. This is what we need to have. But then we also talked about, like, how do you do it? Do you spend, a lot of money to have the vendor create the model for you? Or is there a way to, have some user interface that's, operatable by a client? And in the session, I think just before today in the lunch break, I actually saw this on the slide. It exists. Like there are companies apparently out there. I mean, I just saw a slide, okay, but there are companies out there who do, have a user interface and allow you to create custom models, which I think is fantastic. And this is, I think, a good big step forward. Thanks.
What I would say is, yeah, I feel also very hopeful after, discussing with some vendors today, because I do feel like for me, one vendor put it very brilliantly, and I thought, finally, someone's listening and to what we need in AI. And I think definitely content management, from a DAM manager perspective, if I can get rid of that low value added motion of my daily work, which is maintaining a system, so it could be duplications, auditing, making sure the content stays relevant. There are things there that AI could be harnessed very easily to get rid of those. So I can focus more on my users and curating that content, maybe using AI to predict what people may search. I also heard from a vendor, again, that they have space for their users to have domain-specific search based on their controlled vocabulary. And they can do that, so each client has their space, and they can create that structure. That should fall in the hands of the DAM managers or the enterprise. They should have that ability to do so. And to see it happening, that for me, again, fills me with joy, because it's, again, thinking about our use case, what we need. And I think to see more development in that area would be really fantastic. I would say something else is here we have DAM analytics as well. I feel as though there's so much more that can be done. We have so much data in our content that we could be analyzing, cross-referencing, and I'd like to see more in that sphere. I think at the moment it's very limited, it's very manual. We still rely heavily on CSVs. And I think there could be more. Automatic cropping is an amazing tool. We love it. It's great for web teams who don't need to do huge amounts of work. It's AI powered, so it just beautifully enhances your image there and then. The only limitation is, well, you can only crop your own assets. You can't crop assets that are sitting in another entity's space. So there are limitations in these tools, but I don't think they're impossible to improve. But I really think the focus should be on the low-hanging fruit, those bits that can really because really we want to give DAM managers the space to do their job. They know what the users want, and and we should be harnessing that tool to facilitate that work. And I can see definitely some improvements and things coming up. Natural language search or reverse image search is a game changer as well in our DAM for users. The reality is a lot of users don't want to go in and use your filters and use your beautifully structured. So you do have to have these different options for your different users, skill levels, and I can see that really, really, working well. And again, I think vendors could really explore a little bit more. You have data in your systems. You could use AI to be assisting people when they're in the DAM. You could be harnessing that tool so much more, just focusing on your product, on the UX, which I think often is a problem in DAM. Why is it still hard to onboard people? Why is it? So so much to unpack here, but I think this is so relevant and so much happening. And I want to end on a positive note, because I am really excited about what's going on, what vendors are doing, and it's great to see the space kind of evolving as we speak.
Absolutely. I think we're all really happy that we're moving in this space, right? We're not trying to complain about what's missing. I think there's a lot of effort being made, and a lot of good things came out of this, I think, really. But one thing I would like to pick out of this list is the automated metadata tagging. We kind of talked about this a little bit already, but so we said, okay, the general purpose models don't really work. And I think actually to a point, people were kind of disappointed when it first came out. I think I was. You would guess, I think people were expecting you throw an image at a DAM and it would recognize your product, with your product name and whatever color and variant and everything. Of course it wouldn't, right? Because it was trained with general stock image library data. And I think it became a standard feature set, which is not bad, it's all fine. And I think the next step would be to create domain-specific models, as we just said. Maybe, so can we say that the general tags, the auto tagging as it's known today is not helping, but rather, making the search results worse?
Well, yeah, as I mentioned, my clients are not particularly able to use auto tagging, and more than just making it time-consuming, removing tags that are not accurate. It devalues the DAM in the eyes of the users because they lose trust in the DAM. And trust is the word we associate with DAM a lot, because it's your single source of truth. So if you are implementing auto-tagging and you're not keeping the human in the loop and you're not using it as a tool that assists you, you still need to moderate those tags, and you still need somebody to verify them and QC them, quality check, and then edit. So as someone who keywords daily, regularly, removing incorrect tags is much, much more time consuming than tagging an asset with no tags, because you have to, every iteration, you have to look at the tag, see how it's been applied, question yourself, why was this applied by the machine? Then you might have alarm bells because, well, where else is it applying these tags? Then you go down the rabbit hole of, oh, my assets from this whole shoot have all been tagged. In my example, amputee, when the man is not the amputee in this particular story of the shoot. So I think for me, especially working with creative image makers, they're investing in the art direction, and they're investing in every angle and the way the lighting is done, the costume, the clothing that's being worn. And I think just going back and editing and correcting AI at the moment is definitely more of a hindrance. But what I touched on earlier was, could we talk to vendors more about a layer of auto tags that we can know for sure these are verified tags? When we see this in the metadata or image recognition tool that is always that thing, then can we accept that without challenging it? Then as a human metadata or tagging person, can we go in and enhance that? And I think that's going to be something we do in collaboration with the AI tagging. But yeah, it's just having an awareness of just how time consuming and risky it can be to just go with the AI tagging at the moment, but definitely room for development.
Super interesting perspective, I think. Yeah, it's something I've not thought about before. I was like, okay, it's working, but it's like not giving a lot of advantage or benefit for the user. But it's also, now it seems like you're saying it's actually going the opposite, or could be. Yeah.
But I'd like to add to what you just said, Clemency, which is, it's also linked to that gap, that misunderstanding about tagging. It's like when you say uploading, it's easy. Yeah, uploading an asset is easy, but it's adding the metadata. And the same goes for tagging. I think people just think, oh, it's just tagging. You just add tags. But actually, you can't just add a random tag. You need to make sure that that tag or that term sits somewhere in your vocabulary. So I think, again, it's that sort of gap between what people think they use hashtags, but how does that actually work in a DAM? And I think that's.
Yeah. And I think that's going back to our original consideration about, before you jump into AI, what are you really using it for? What problems are you trying to solve? I mean, I've seen the full range, right? I have one client who manufactures doors and windows in the US. And they said, you know what? All of our doors and windows are labeled with the specific product information, the product code. But the marketing team, we just want to find a red door. We can't find it. So that's a great use case for generic AI tagging, right? And I have another client now who has said, we have millions of assets. They're completely unstructured. We have no metadata. We've only just have them in folder structure. We want to use AI as the first step to get some metadata on there, right? They know that it's not the end-all be-all, and they need to enrich that metadata. But what are you going to do with a big pile of assets that have nothing on them, right? And so for them, using AI as that first step is a really good opportunity. Yes, AI might not get it right every time. And there's also, again, working with AI companies, they're also able to meet certain requirements like that. So they can set thresholds on how certain does the AI algorithm have to be that this asset really is a picture of a dog. Well, I want it to be 99% certain that it's a picture of a dog before it labels it as a dog. And I also have clients, and this is interesting, kind of going back to some of Celine's use cases. You have a lot of sensitive assets, so maybe AI is not appropriate for all of those. But one area that companies are exploring where they have a lot of sensitive data is model releases. So connecting and linking your model release form to your assets, that's something that we all struggle with, really, really struggle with. But AI facial recognition can do that very quickly. So if you put the picture of the person on the model release, AI can automatically match it to your people.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and I think that's one way that we would be willing to use AI. But coming back to the auto tagging, again, I can see there are still ways we could use auto tagging. For example, for us, if there's a person, if AI could just tell us there's a person, then that might link to a workflow. Or the number of people in an image as well, so we know it's a group, or so there are ways. Again, it's extracting the bits that we can use that are specific to our use case, and yeah.
Cool.
Just a quick note, we've not discussed, but it is a really challenging area of tagging, auto-tagging or manual tagging is people. The fact that people are so diverse and that diversity and inclusion is such a big topic for all the big brands and companies. I have a lot of questions from clients about how do we tag people of color, how do we tag people of a sexual orientation, trans people, different things, a religious faith. These are all tags that people need to search with, but they're very cautious and nervous about labeling people. And we are, as people, very worried about labeling others. So how will the machine AI tool understand what is appropriate, what is changing, language is changing. How we describe people in our region might be extremely different to in another region. And, so we've got all these language variations that we struggle with as human beings before we even start thinking about how to train the machine. Just thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah, super interesting, I think. Super interesting aspect. And I know we could go on forever. We already have spoken a lot about this in our preparation. And it's super fun to talk about it. I could, spend hours and hours to talk about it. But Fred just gave me a signal to close this session. So I will, and say thank you again, Fred, and thank you. And for being here, it was fantastic. It was a lot of fun, and
All right, thank you, Timo. I said to David Lipsy, yes, we can make a picture. So just for American friends, thank you so much. I know that you travel not so far away, so professional. So it's really an honor for us because you have most of the 4 key players in the industry talking about the dams in so many years. We know that in the US and UK, we have more maturity, something like this. So it's very important for us to share your best practices, etc. So thank you very much.